Hello, and welcome to the Josh Brown Podcast. With over 40 years of combined financial planning experience serving high net worth clients, we will discuss our favorite topics, concepts, and stories.
Hey, welcome to the Josh Brown Podcast. Today we're going to be talking about personal savings, which is one of the three legs of the retirement income stool. Previously, we've talked about retirement pensions, employer-sponsored plans, as one of the legs. The other leg was Social Security and the complexities of that rather large benefit over your lifetime. And today is the third leg of the retirement income stool, personal savings. I'm Dan Joss. This is Philip.
Hello. Personal savings. So we were kind of talking about the difference between that and employer-sponsored plans. I think originally my understanding of personal savings was, well, that includes 401ks and 403bs and all that because you are saving a portion of your paycheck. But really we're saying, no, that kind of replaced the pension system back in the day.
That's right.
So that's that leg. Now we're talking about the personal savings, which is the rest of it.
If you think about this years ago, Social Security, pension, and then personal savings. And what's happened is pensions, and Michelle and I talked about this in the other podcast, pensions have kind of gone away. There's still some state and federal pension, but they've brought on the defined contribution plan where the employee is responsible for that. So you fund your 401k or your 403b, and you're responsible for that. But that is a replacement for the pension. So you're right. Social Security, employer plan, and personal savings. So we're not going to talk about your 401k. That's the other leg. We're going to talk about the third leg, which is essentially everything else. Yeah. And you've got a great list here.
Yeah, so some of the things I put down were IRAs, brokerage accounts, checking and savings, health savings accounts, and then maybe your house and maybe rental properties as well.
Sure.
So.
Yep. So IRAs and Roth IRAs are kind of a hybrid, but if you don't have an employer-sponsored plan, then you need to open up a retirement account. Now, whether that's a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA, that's a separate issue, but we would recommend you start funding that right away.
Sure. Yep.
In addition to that, have a taxable account for an emergency fund, a savings account. Start funding the savings account. And then eventually the savings account may be a big number. And you could say, you know what, let's turn this into an investment account and take some risk with stocks and start funding that.
Yeah.
So that at retirement, you'll have Social Security, retirement income from your retirement account, and some savings.
Yeah.
I mean, just picture this. You're mid-50s, let's say 54. Means you can't tap your 401k yet. Mm-hmm. And Social Security, you can't start. But you want a big purchase. You want to do something. But you can't if you didn't save outside of a retirement account. Because we don't want you to pay a penalty. And our advice is a retirement account is for retirement. So you got to save up outside of a retirement account so you can do things before retirement.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and a lot of times we'll use those accounts for even other things on this list. You can't, I guess you can tap your 401k in certain, circumstances, but, a lot of times we won't recommend tapping your 401k for like a house down payment.
Well, that's limited to $10,000.
Okay,
right? $250,000 house, $10,000 isn't going to help you out.
Yeah.
It won't make or break the deal.
So you're going to need another form
we'd
of
recommend you don't
savings to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So save up for the car purchase, save up for the house down payment, save up for big expenses.
Yeah. And then also save up for retirement as well. Or early retirement.
Well, if you're saving 10% or more to an investment account that's not connected with a retirement account, you'll spend some of that over your lifetime, but it will accumulate, and you'll have it in retirement.
Yep.
And that's what we're looking for.
That's right.
Because you'll have options in retirement. I had clients long ago that didn't do that. Their plan was to save to the retirement accounts, and then at the last few years before retirement, save some after-tax savings. But they decided to retire before that, so they didn't have after-tax savings. And what that put them into the position of, when they wanted to buy the car, let's just say a $40,000 car, which is an average price new car now.
Right, yeah.
They have to pull out that plus pay income tax, so they have to withhold. So they're probably pulling out $55,000 to buy the $40,000 car.
Yeah. Yep.
But if they had after-tax saved up, they may have to pay capital gains tax, which is less than half of what ordinary income tax could be.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, we've also got health savings accounts down here, and we were talking about that recently, how you usually use it for health expenses or medical premiums or what have you, but at age 65, then you can use it for everything else. And so that can also kind of be a personal savings vehicle that you can use in retirement.
Yeah, it's a great personal savings vehicle because, and very few people have it. Kind of depends on what your employer has for your health insurance benefit.
Right, your plan.
But if you have the option of having an HSA, get it and then fund it. And because you get the deduction for the contribution, and then it grows tax deferred for life.
Yeah.
And if you use it for a medical expense in later life, then that's tax-free.
Yeah.
You could use it for something else. You'd pay the tax on it, but we would recommend using it for qualified expenses so that you get the triple benefit: tax deduction, tax deferred growth, and then possible tax-free use of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've got house down as well. Most of our clients have paid off houses by the time they retire. But it's something that, we've looked at and could be applicable in some circumstances, is using some of that home equity for maybe late life care or retirement expenses or what have you. So in a way, we don't generally recommend, using your house for a retirement fund. But that's a way to diversify where your money's at, where your equity's at, and and that could also be a retirement asset in a way.
Yeah, and it's tax deferred growth.
Yeah.
You only pay income tax on it if your gain is above $500,000 if you're married,
right?
$250,000 if you're not, but at sale.
Yeah.
And you could, like my neighbor here in Williamsburg, lived into his early 80s and didn't sell his house, so he didn't have to pay the tax.
There you go.
And his kids got a step up in basis, so a small inheritance. There's some equity there. Sure, and it's not in a retirement account. So if you're inheriting an IRA account from your parents, you got to pay the income tax on that. If you inherited a house that's paid off, you don't have to.
Yeah.
You don't have to pay any income tax.
Yeah, that's right. It's a cool tool. Yeah, it's a cool tool.
So what's a good guideline for personal savings as a percentage of earnings?
Well, I think it depends on kind of who you are and how you prefer to save. Do you have any kind of rules that you go by in terms of percentages?
I start off at 10%. If you're just out of college and let's say you don't have a retirement account at work,
right?
Get a Roth account.
Absolutely.
You're in a low tax bracket. Max it out, or 10%, whichever's greater or whichever's less, and then 10% to a taxable account or a savings account. So there you're saving 20%. If you have a employer-sponsored plan, then save to that and get the match, or save to that if you can afford it. Right? If you're saving to your retirement account, your individual retirement account, and you're saving to a taxable account, and you can afford to, save some more to the employer-sponsored plan.
Yeah. So with that taxable account, do you allow your clients, or in that recommendation, can someone go in and kind of use that taxable account for current expenses like a car, like a house down payment, that kind of thing?
Well,
or is that even separate?
Well, it's two different things. You said use it for current expenses. I would say no, but then when you qualified it a car, I don't know that would be a current expense, but it's certainly a pre-retirement expense. And a car, we'd probably have several before retirement.
Right.
Yeah. I would say save up for it. And if you can save more than, if you're saving 10% on let's say a $50,000 salary, that's $5,000. You'd have to save a few years to get a car.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, it wouldn't be unreasonable to draw down, buy a car, as long as you keep saving to that account.
Sure.
Because over time, that will grow. But I wouldn't recommend it for current expenses, because then it's just going in and out.
Yeah.
But if it's a periodic purchase or a gifting from that for some reason, it's like that's
That's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and something that's kind of come up recently too that we've talked about is long-term care. And so some clients do better if they kind of earmark a certain, account or a fund in that account for, a long-term care or a house down payment or a car. So that's kind of another way to do it.
Well, we have some clients that are using their, after a career in the military service, they're getting disability income. And so we have an account where their disability check goes to. And then when they have a health need, they use that funds for the need. So it's not coming out of their normal cash flow.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, it's building up. It's
Yeah.
like that's a great reason to do that.
Kind of earmark different accounts.
And going back to your car thing, you may see what a $25,000 car costs over 5 years if you were to finance it, 5% or 6% for 5 years. See what that cost is.
Right.
See if you could save that in addition to your 10%. Because then you, for sure, after 5 years could pay for a car, maybe even 4 years.
Yeah.
Pay for a car. And then keep making that car payment to that fund and use that for maintenance on your car.
Yeah.
But
that's true.
That will accumulate.
I was going to say pretty soon you could have a really nice car, but
you can
maintenance expenses are pretty expensive.
You can upgrade. And I think we can find out that a less expensive car won't depreciate as much. So if you buy a less expensive car and keep funding that car fund, then you could trade it in and upgrade.
That's
and then
right.
upgrade again. I forget which advisor mentioned that over the long run, but kind of taking a multi-year approach to getting your ideal car.
Yeah.
So that you get it when you reasonably could afford it, instead of just getting it now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And loading yourself up with debt.
Yeah.
On a depreciating asset.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then but yeah, all of these things that are life oriented happen before retirement. And so if we save up for them and spend them reasonably in retirement, you'll turn on that Social Security income, you'll turn on the employer-sponsored income, and you'll have some of these other dollars to do things with. You have a lot of flexibility in retirement.
I think flexibility is the key.
Like, which tax do I want to pay to achieve that goal? Do I want to pay capital gains, ordinary income? And then remember, in retirement, eventually we'll turn 73 and have to start taking out of our retirement accounts.
Yeah. And that's, there's a new software we got now that you can kind of toggle those switches on and off. Yep. Do I take from the employer plan? Do I take from the brokerage account? Do I just use cash on hand? So that's kind of something we can plan for.
And that
the
after-tax pot of money can be used in doing our Roth conversions.
Yeah.
And because you don't want to pay for the Roth conversion with the money from the IRA account. That kind of defeats the purpose. So you have to have some dollars that are outside of retirement account to really benefit from a Roth conversion.
Yeah, absolutely. Good.
What else we got?
That's all I have.
Okay, so it's the three legs are Social Security, pension or retirement sponsored plan, and personal savings. And I think we made the case that it's best to have all three.
Absolutely.
And I think Devin mentioned it previously with the Social Security. He said, I think over half of the retirees are only living on the Social Security because they didn't do retirement accounts and they didn't do personal savings. And we would submit it's better to have all three.
Absolutely.
Because then you could sit down on a stool that's going to stand.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Yeah, that's all I have.
Well, hope you like the series, and let us know what else you'd like to hear us talk about. Thanks.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the Joss Brown Podcast. If you'd like to see more episodes, visit our website at jossbrown.com.